Hello. Good morning, everyone. We're here again, Kristrún and Hulda from Annerley, the midwives clinic. Hulda is the head midwife. I run the show. Hulda is asked to talk about breastfeeding today. Why is that, Hulda?
Well, I've just posted a small link to an article that was that I read, I think Huffington Post or something similar, about breastfeeding, about how the breastfeeding will decrease depression.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
It's quite interesting, and it just when I was doing that, I realized how often I find myself in the role of promoting breastfeeding.
Yeah.
And at the same time, as I think it's very important and it needs to be done, it's like any other thing in our world today. We need to educate others if we think we know anything more than them, or whatever new research that is out there. It's important to get this information. Then I found that the feeling of having to educate or having to say to people, "Oh, have you considered this? Have you considered that?" It actually makes me feel like a promoter, like it's like almost a salesperson for breastfeeding. And I think
so you're all pro breastfeeding.
I don't even want to use that word. I get slightly upset over this.
I don't want to upset you.
No, it's like of course I am pro breastfeeding, but why would I even have to say that? It's like, well, who is not? Are you pro eating?
Oh yes.
Are you pro
sleeping?
Yeah. To me, I don't want to be necessarily in the role of someone who has to advocate for something that is just normal. Why do you even ask someone, are you going to breastfeed? And the thing is, this is a very sensitive subject because, like we know, and including myself, I have 4 children. I have not been able to breastfeed them all exclusively. And we know and see everyday people who sincerely cannot fully breastfeed their babies. So how can we go out publicly and almost accuse them of not doing the best thing, right? Which we are when we say breast is the best thing, right?
Yeah. But it doesn't mean that everyone should maybe try, or not should or shouldn't. But that's what you're saying. It should be something that we don't even discuss. You just do it, or you just try it.
You just don't even think about it. Baby comes out of you and you want food. Where's the food? It's right there. And so there are people who cannot. There are people who've had surgeries, who've been sick, they have a very, very valid reason, at least at some point, not to fully breastfeed, right? Or breastfeed at all. Yeah. And we have absolutely no right to make them feel bad about it because there are other options.
Luckily,
yeah. And you have full right to choose whatever. I have the right to decide to eat McDonald's burgers.
Mm-hmm.
Would I do that if that was, if I knew that I could have much better quality meal at the same time and it was just as cheap and easy? Probably wouldn't. But this is often what those that cannot breastfeed feel like. They feel like they're they're being made to feel like they're giving their babies horrible food.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, in essence, I would like to just say to people, oh, breastfeeding, yeah, well, what's the deal? What's the big deal? Of course you just breastfeed. And then someone comes and says, it's not of course. I fought it for 6 weeks. I really tried everything I could. Mm-hmm. How can you go out there and say it's just a natural thing? Then I would say, okay, actually, you're right. You went into it with that full heart and mind and wanting and all. And you fought and you figured it out the hard way. Then there's people like me and somebody else, I'm sure hundreds of people who can then sit down with you and support you and say, look, have we actually tried? Is it what you want? Is it the best for you and your baby? Okay, let's pursue it. Here are 15 solutions. Let's try it. And then at the end of it, at least you know, okay, actually I tried. I don't have to justify why I'm not breastfeeding,
Mm-hmm.
there's a very good reason for it. I could only help in your heart. That's what you say to yourself. You don't have to say it to others. So to me, I'm like, well, we have to stop talking about breastfeeding like something that needs to be promoted, and that everyone who doesn't do it is not a good mother.
Or a loser.
It's not like that.
Yeah.
However, for a baby that comes out of the belly of a mother, and the mother, if it's just an ordinary thing, a low-key, normal thing in our environment, then it's much easier to take on this task, I find.
Mm-hmm. And what you're pointing out also, which was the result of that research in that article, saying it's not only the baby, it's the same for the mother, right? It's saying that by breastfeeding, you decrease the chances of depression. And not only that, right, but it also, the recovery of the mother, it has something to do with that, right?
Absolutely. And the list, it is endless. I mean, the more we see breastfeeding decline, or rather, should we say, the more challenges there seem to be for mothers to breastfeed in our world for various different reasons.
Yeah.
The more the need is to research this, and many health professionals, for example, they don't actually know a lot about breastfeeding.
Mm-hmm.
Help is sought from them, and they're asked to give advice, and they maybe even give advice, but they don't necessarily know a whole lot about it.
Mm-hmm.
So these researchers are very, very important, including this that told us that we should, sorry about this. The research that told us that we should, that there's, sorry about that there's depression risk is less if you breastfeed. There's lots of research that shows us that we have less risk of breast cancer, that we have the babies generally, they thrive better, they're less ill, there's less stomach infections, there are all sorts of things, and this is all important, and it's just to support what we already know. But in essence, I would like to say more of just not even why do we have to talk about this?
Yeah, but it is a common topic, and one of the things that we do at Annerley, we offer breastfeeding support by midwives and lactation consultants. So we know that often support is needed.
Yeah.
But if you look at the two things, okay, well, I'm breastfeeding, I'm struggling with my new baby. Where do I go? Some people go and see the pediatrician for breastfeeding, others go and see their obstetrician, and others midwives or lactation consultants. Do you have any recommendations? Okay, you are going to breastfeed. Let's say that. Let's say you intend to, and you intend to do your best, and in the best interest of yourself and your baby.
Yeah.
But how is best to plan the postnatal support then? I mean, who is the best person? Or where is the best support?
I think the best support comes from different people. At the end of the day, a continuous care is always shown to have good effects. So you're not seeing one person, the other one, and people all over the place, because they're always going to give you slightly conflicting advice, not knowing the details of what happened last and so on. So then you tend to perhaps go more likely to go in circles with that. However, the pediatrician, for example, is a very valuable person for certain things in the baby care and following up. So you need to see a pediatrician for certain things, or a GP or someone to follow up. And then you need to see the midwives for more the postnatal care for the mother and the baby in the first few days after the birth.
Yeah.
But the midwives will not replace the pediatrician will not replace the midwife. And I think many people perhaps want the one solution, and they perhaps go to the pediatrician with the feeding support in mind. The pediatrician very rarely, although there are some that are excellent, but they very rarely will be able or have time to support with breastfeeding much.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them don't, and they openly admit they don't even know much about breastfeeding. They know how much the baby needs to gain weight and what it needs to be healthy,
sort of the technical aspect.
Yeah. But many moms that we see, they have perhaps sought help from pediatricians several times, and they come back, not at all any closer to their goals with breastfeeding than they were before.
So you're more saying have a good relationship with a doctor and the midwife.
Yeah.
The midwife sort of to follow up on more frequent occasions over a longer period of time, but the pediatrician for more specific physical problems.
And milestone checkups at certain points.
Yes.
And people actually, the more I read about breastfeeding, and I think most of our research is showing this also, is that it's actually not so much only the professionals that are your key players in this game with breastfeeding. It is the people around you that are sitting closest to you.
Yeah, the family, your husband.
Yeah, your husband seems to be one of the strongest link to failure or success or your partner rather, because obviously it's not always just men. And similarly, your mother-in-law or your mother, if you have a person sitting right next to you who is either silent but very supportive or openly supportive, both hands-on and verbally, helping you with breastfeeding, then you are much, much more likely to.
So that's the politics of breastfeeding. You sort of have to have the meeting before the meeting with the people around you to make sure that they are also educated. And there's one key person that you didn't mention, that must be the helper. Like in Asia, in Asia, it's very common to have helpers to take care of the household and the babies because there are no daycare centers.
Yeah.
And that person may have similar effects, right?
Very much so. And that brings us back to where we started, which is kind of answering the question of why do we even need all this research? Why do we have to advocate all the time? This is the very reason. It's not just the mothers, but it's all these people around who don't really understand, okay, what's the fuss? Why do all these people have to breastfeed?
Mm-hmm.
And especially in places like Asia, since you mentioned that, why do they have to breastfeed in public? Well,
and that's possibly even another topic.
Yeah, of course.
I'm trying to keep this broadcast slightly shorter than we've had them. I felt they were a little bit too long.
Yeah.
But there's one more thing that we can't leave this subject without mentioning. How long should someone breastfeed? I mean, is it a month or 3 months or 6 months or 17 months? If you could just give us a short view on that.
Well, let me just get the handbook. It is 16 and a half months.
Again, it's a very common question. In our clinic, it's a topic that comes up all the time.
Yeah.
And it seems like a lot of our moms, they have a previous idea of what is what would the word be? What would be acceptable or enough or sufficient or something like that?
Again, comes down to the education out there.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, there is no one answer to this. I think if we could make it so that breastfeeding was just not 100% natural, because natural is a very, very stretchy word, right?
Yeah.
Okay, how many non-breastfeeders do we have that are otherwise living a very natural life? Quite a lot, right? But they don't necessarily breastfeed.
That's a deep one.
Yeah. But anyway, okay. So natural, we'll leave that out. Okay. If breast, then this answer would come to people as they go. So, for example, we come from Iceland, and there's a lot of things that are not very good in Iceland for a lot of other things. But one thing that is quite good there is that we have one of the highest breastfeeding rates in the whole world, both for the number of women who breastfeed, the women who breastfeed straight away, the women who 100% breastfeed, the women who 100% breastfeed on the date of their discharge from hospital, and those women who breastfeed at 3, 4, and 6 months and a year after. We have the highest rate of all of this. We're amongst the highest in the world. Okay, and what this has done is we have, a longer maternity leave than, for example, Hong Kong has. And we have other things that are supportive. However, those women who want to breastfeed, it's made possible for them in their workplace. And there isn't that, oh, where are you going to breastfeed when you go out and about? It's
or
just
are you going to breastfeed?
Yeah,
it's automatically assumed, right?
Yeah, well, it's just like, well, of course there must be somewhere I can sit down, right? And it isn't such a public breastfeeding. I don't remember having seen a woman's breast, for example, so much in Iceland. But people breastfeed months after they go back to work. It isn't a big deal. It isn't much planning. It's just, it's quite natural. So I think at the end of the day, it's much easier if the topic isn't such a predefined, I am going to, and this is how I am. Although people like me and you and all of the people in our clinic, every day, this is exactly what we help people to do, is to how and why and justify.
And we must understand that. Sometimes you need support. But just one more thing then, because I think it's fair that we share with our audiences what our breastfeeding experience is about. So you've had 4 children.
Yeah.
How long did you breastfeed the 4 of them?
So the first one I breastfed till 10 months. And then I went back to work, and I remember taking a can of formula, and he didn't really want it, so I gave him more solid food and a little bit of breast milk, and it just faded out. The second one I fed for a very short period of time, maybe 2-3 months, something like that. Had a little bit of support, less knowledge than wanted, and stressed with having 2 kids. Yeah. And I gave it up or stopped it, and to the day never ever. I've never forgiven myself, actually, not because of the principle, but I feel it was for the wrong reasons. Third one, fourth one, just whatever, one and a half year or whatever. I don't even think about it. I just fed until they didn't want it. I think it was maybe 18 months.
Yeah. And I breastfed my firstborn for, say, 1.5 years, 16, 17, 18 months, can't remember.
Yeah.
Second one, I think exclusively for 10 months. That's when I started giving him formula as well, because I was too stressed to pump. So I supplemented with formula. A couple of months, maybe 1 or maybe a couple of months later, he refused the breast and preferred the formula that he got with food for maybe another half a year, something like that. Yeah. So I think this is a good place to stop.
Yep. But one more thing.
Okay.
Okay. So this hangout, this talk,
yeah,
is a little bit to stir you, whoever is listening to this or watching this, right?
Yeah.
It's just to stir it up a little bit. Yeah. It's just, we can read endless articles about breastfeeding is best, or formula is best, or women are worse to women. At the end of the day, it's just, can we just try and kind of open it up a little bit? Stop being so judgmental or anal about everything, including breastfeeding. Breastfeeding is great. It's not the only way.
Yeah, and no offense to those who not succeeded, right?
Yeah, and stop using that word. It's not even successful. It's
just breastfeeding.
Were you successful at sleeping?
Sometimes. Okay. I'm sure we can. At some points, we'll put more out there about breastfeeding. Maybe something about troubleshooting, about pros and cons of using, top-ups. There's a long list, and we'll continue to contribute on that.
Yes.
Have a good day. Thank you.